Attention today, the West is misreading China in the South China Sea. In spite of the abundance of opinions voiced almost daily by foreign policy experts and international relations academics, there is no consensus about China's strategic and tactical motivations regarding the South China Sea (SCS). But if one considers China's history, as well as its geography, resources and economy, clues emerge which give us some perspective about why China is so categorical in its resolve about the South China Sea. Beijing claims roughly 90% of this sea, which lies in the Pacific Ocean, encompasses an area of around 3.5 million square kilometers, 1.4 million square miles, and is shared by Brunei, Cambodia, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, and Vietnam. Several of these states, some of which are United States allies, are engaged in territorial and maritime disputes over a number of islands, reefs, and waterways. Some, like the Philippines, have accused China of bullying and intimidation to force its sovereignty over the areas it claims as part of its mainland. They claim that China has constructed a number of artificial islands in the SCS, and that its warships routinely patrol and harass the navies of other Southeast Asian countries. The tension noticeably grew in 2023, prompting the 11-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, to express concern that the disputes could undermine peace, security, and stability in the region. China is not a member of ASEAN, but is the bloc's largest trading partner. The United States has weighed in on the South China Seas by supporting its allies in the region. In March of this year, it condemned Chinese naval action in the dispute with the Philippines. The PRC's actions are destabilizing to the region and show clear disregard for international law, a U.S. State Department statement said. The statement went on to reaffirm the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty, Washington's read of the South China Seas, and its involvement in what China says is a regional issue, is further raising the mercury on tensions with Beijing. A cogent response comes into specific relief as we consider China's disclosures. Moreover, most of these documents are not subject to classified intelligence prescriptions. Yet, the view from China from the official documents available reveals an assessment contrary to that of the West. In May 2015, China issued a white paper on military strategy in which three major concerns for China were delineated: hegemony issues, power politics, and neo-interventionist policies. The document further discloses that top priorities for the military were to safeguard China's national unification, territorial integrity, and development interests. It is evident that the United States and China look at the same problem and emerge with distinctly different assessments. The central issue for the U.S. is transit through the South China Sea as part of the international resource domains. Chinese resolve amounts to defending the South China Sea as integral to its sovereign territory. U.S. experts on the region must begin to treat this differing view from China with the import it deserves if they are to understand what is truly motivating the disputes there. One thing is certain though, the Chinese leadership is focused on those difficulties and seems intent on resolving them in what can only be viewed as China's best interest. In June 2014, Chinese President Xi Jinping asserted that China must place the highest priority on building an impregnable wall for border and ocean defense. Xi has repeatedly focused on the need to firmly uphold China's territorial sovereignty, maritime rights and interests, and national unity. and properly handle territorial and island disputes. The Western assessment of Chinese priorities could be a misreading of the situation. The priority of issues is significant in that the following three tasks deal with the return of territory and resources under Chinese sovereign control. 1. Reunifying Taiwan with the mainland. 2. The return of lost and disputed maritime territory. And 3. Defending national maritime resources. If one considers the comments previously noted by Xi since 2014, this hierarchy of goals indicates Chinese leadership's obsession with ending the country's national humiliation historically at the hands of the Western powers. The century of humiliation, 1839 to 1949, refers to a period when China was dominated and occupied by colonial powers. Failure to understand the importance of this hierarchy of aims is to misunderstand the key motivations driving Chinese policy and the contentious issues in the South China Sea. China behaves the way it does in the South China Sea based upon nationalist readings of regional history. Thus, China's behavior is driven by the idea of sovereign entitlement to the islands and other natural structures in the waters of the SCS. This sense of entitlement is robust. Moreover, it will likely lead China over the coming years to be even more assertive in the region. Continued encroachment into strategic and resource-rich areas along with possible confrontations are quite real. Given the geography and increasing U.S. and British political and military hegemony in the area, strategic considerations are important to China. China is a country dependent on trade. Thus, access to the open ocean through the South China Sea is a matter of national survival. From China's perspective, there is a real possibility that at some point, U.S. military war strategy would attempt to limit or impede maritime trade accessibility to cut China off from what it needs to continue as a functioning, viable nation economically and politically. A few statistics illustrate why China acts the way it does with regard to that large body of water on its southeastern coast. In 2013, China surpassed the U.S. to become the world's largest net oil importer. It had already been a net importer of food since 2008. Moreover, foreign trade constitutes about 37% of China's GDP. Yet, the country has no clear access to the open sea. The South China Sea is its lifeline to the oceans of the world and its ability to survive should the worst happen. China's defensive policy is designed to develop strategies against U.S. efforts to support Taiwan in the event of a conflict. China's new island bases greatly improve its early warning systems. Furthermore, it would be much easier for China to construct a base for its new Jin-class ballistic missile submarines if it were able to control the deep water areas like the Scarborough Shoal. It should be noted further that there are many Chinese officials, bureaucrats, who support a more assertive policy. This illustrates interest among industry groups, including the fishing industry and state-owned energy companies, which stand to benefit from an assertive South China Sea policy. The power of these interest groups is immense when they work together to benefit China. One thing is certain, everyone in China, industry, military, civilian, government, agrees that whether for reasons of nationalism, security, profit, or jobs, China must gain access to and resources from the South China Sea.